This question is a table. This is another very common question that you'll get on the SOL tests, and because this is a release test, you won't see this exact data, but you'll likely see questions similar to it. When you get a question like this, read the information to try to interpret it. Ask the questions, what's going on? The title of this is Urban Populations, 1880 to 1910, so we know that we're talking about cities. The time period, 1880 to 1910. And we're talking about two cities in particular, Detroit and Pittsburgh. Looking at the question, which would be the second thing that I would suggest doing after interpreting the table, which of these contributed most to the changes shown in the table? So looking back, we're talking about cities, and thinking about the time period 1880 to 1910, we know that we're after the Civil War and after Reconstruction, but 1910 is a few years before World War II. So that helps to provide some context as to where we are in U.S. history. Now looking at the answer choices, the first one, growth of suburbs. Suburbs definitely have a lot to do with cities. The second one, settlement of the frontier. Well, thinking to a map of the United States, both Pittsburgh and Detroit are located relatively in the eastern part of the United States, and maybe that's right, maybe it's not. Answer choice C is end of slavery in the South. Now, we know that slavery ended at the end of the Civil War with the passage of the 13th Amendment, but this is talking about 1880. So that may or may not be the right answer. And then the last answer choice, D, is industrialization in the North. Now let's look at each one of these answers and look at the data. What we see in the data for Detroit is that over the course of a 30-year period from 1880 to 1910, the population of Detroit goes from about 116,000 to almost 466,000. So the population more than triples. In Pittsburgh, it goes from 156,000 to almost 534,000. It too almost triples in 30 years. We know that slavery ended before this time period, but would slavery really have a lot to do with the populations of two cities that we know are located in the northern part of the United States? We also know that slavery ended 15 years before the first data point taken on here, which was 1880, so it's probably not the best answer. It's not correct. You can go ahead and cross it off. Now, settlement of the frontier. We both know that these cities are both in the eastern part of the United States. The frontier got closed in the west, and although we know it was during this time period, that doesn't really make sense because we're talking about a different part of the country. That answer too is incorrect. Growth of suburbs. The suburbs of the United States did grow, and certainly some of this population would move to the suburbs, but think too, this is talking about the population of the city. It has nothing to do with the suburbs. Industrialization in the north. Now this answer makes a lot of sense because Detroit and Pittsburgh are both located in the north. We know that part of our industrialization unit was talking about the growth of cities, which we see both of these two cities nearly or more than triples in size. If we think modern day, Detroit is known for the auto industry and Pittsburgh is known for the steel industry. Two very important industries. So the correct answer is D, industrialization of the North. This is something that might be a little bit different than the questions that we've had before, where you'd just be asked to fill in the blank. You're given a set of data here in this chart, and then given an interpretive question. You can easily work through these questions, though, so that you get the questions correct on your SOL test.